The air in the jungle was thick, not just with humidity, but with a kind of watchful silence. Every chirp, every rustle, every splash of water on mossy stone carried more meaning than it should. For Marcus Hale, a young human explorer who had wandered farther than his camp's maps dared to chart, this silence was the first warning. He'd grown up listening to myths of hunters that weren't human, tall, sharp-eyed beings who could step between vines without disturbing even a single leaf. He never believed the stories, until he found himself in the middle of one. He crouched low beside a tree whose roots twisted like frozen serpents, sweat dripping down his forehead. The canopy above was so thick it blocked most of the sunlight, turning day into a green twilight. His boots sunk half an inch into the spongy ground with every step, and his ears picked up something unnatural, the faint hum of alien tech. It was distant, rhythmic, predatory. The hunters were near. They weren't here for him. Not yet. They hunted the forest's great beasts, six-legged panther lizards with glowing eyes, feathered serpents that glided across rivers and tusked, boars that could topple entire huts. To them, it was a sport, a rite of honor. To Marcus, it was madness. The jungle was a place of balance, and he had learned to respect it. But the alien hunters, tall figures in armor of polished bone and woven metals, didn't respect. They dominated. Marcus first saw them across the clearing, 4 of them, faces obscured by skull helms, weapons curved like crescent moons and glowing faintly with blue etching. Their movements were fluid, coordinated, almost beautiful in their lethal efficiency. He should have been terrified. And yet, when one of them slipped on a patch of mud and almost fell face first into the roots, Marcus bit his lip so hard to stifle a laugh that he tasted blood. The laugh escaped anyway, a strangled, choked sound that cut through the silence, like a snapped twig. 4 helmed heads snapped in his direction. Marcus froze, eyes wide. Great. My sense of humor just signed my death sentence. But instead of attacking, the hunters exchanged glances. One of them tilted their head as though puzzled. They advanced, weapons raised but not firing. Marcus backed against a tree, hands up, his voice stumbling through broken words. Hi? I didn't mean to interrupt your, mud dancing contest. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then one of the hunters, the one who had slipped, let out a sharp, clicking sound. It echoed oddly, like a bird's cackle. Another joined in, then the third. Marcus blinked. Were they laughing? The leader, taller and carrying a weapon twice the length of Marcus's arm, removed her skull helm. Her face was angular, alien, yet strangely beautiful, with large amber eyes and a line of markings down her cheek that glowed faintly. She studied Marcus for a long moment before speaking in heavily accented words. You laugh at hunters? Marcus swallowed. No, I laugh at gravity. It's undefeated. You looked like you were having a rematch. The hunters exchanged another round of cackling. The leader's mouth curved upward, not quite a human smile, but close enough to make Marcus exhale in relief. She lowered her weapon, stepping closer, and Marcus noticed she towered over him by at least a foot. What is mud dancing? She asked. Marcus realized then that humor, his most reckless tool, had just kept him alive. The strange bond began there, awkwardly but undeniably. The hunters didn't kill him. Instead, they brought him back to their camp deep in the jungle. Marcus expected cages, interrogation, maybe worse. Instead, he was sat by a fire while the hunters passed around slabs of roasted jungle meat. The leader, whose name he learned was Koresh, explained in halting common that their kind rarely spoke. To humans, "You are loud," she said, pointing at him with a bone knife. Marcus raised an eyebrow. Loud? I've been sneaking through the jungle all day like a cat." "You sound like elephant with broken foot," Koresh countered. The other hunters erupted into laughter again, a sharp staccato that carried through the jungle. Marcus rolled his eyes but chuckled too. Somehow, in this alien company, jokes became weapons sharper than blades, breaking barriers of mistrust. Koresh studied him carefully during these exchanges. Marcus noticed that beneath her warrior's armor, her shoulders relaxed around him. She was curious. He was different, not afraid to laugh where others trembled. And he noticed something too. Her people, for all their deadly reputation, were not joyless predators. They hunted, yes. But they also loved stories and humor, though they had never thought humans capable of sharing in that. As the night deepened, Marcus found himself not just tolerated, but included. When Koresh told a story of a hunt gone wrong, Marcus gasped and threw in a sarcastic, "Wow, real professionals," making even the stoic hunter beside her chuckle. By the firelight, for the first time, predator and prey sat together as equals, but the jungle wasn't so forgiving. The next day, a sound ripped through the forest, a shriek so loud it made the ground tremble. Koresh's eyes widened. She turned to her hunters, her tone serious. "Great beast, close," Marcus frowned. "Great beast? Define great, like a bear, elephant? Or are we talking dinosaur level?" The hunters ignored him, weapons ready. But Marcus's stomach dropped when he saw the trees swaying violently in the distance. A tusked lizard beast, 3 stories tall, barreled into view, its tusks glowing with bioluminescent veins. Its body, armored in scales that shimmered like obsidian. Marcus stumbled back, heart racing. "Oh yeah, definitely dinosaur level." The hunters leapt into action, their crescent blades humming as they surrounded the beast. Koresh barked orders in her tongue. For a moment, Marcus thought they had everything under control, until the beast swung its tusks and sent 2 hunters crashing into the trees. Without thinking, Marcus picked up a long stick from the ground and yelled, "Hey, ugly! Over here!" The beast turned, its glowing eyes narrowing on him. Marcus's knees shook, but he held his ground. He wasn't a warrior, but he had something else. Recklessness and a stubborn refusal to back down. Koresh glanced at him, surprise, flashing across her face, before a grin spread over her alien features. "You are loud," she called, leaping onto the beast's back, but useful. And in that moment, amid chaos and laughter and roars, Marcus realized the hunt was no longer theirs alone. It was shared. The tusked lizard beast thrashed, tearing through trees as if they were reeds. Koresh clung to its back, her blade digging deep between armored scales, but the creature bucked violently, nearly throwing her off. Marcus, meanwhile, realized his stick strategy wasn't going to cut it. He darted left, ducking under a swinging tail that carved a trench in the earth. His heart hammered, every nerve screaming at him to run, but he yelled again instead. Not a challenge this time, but a joke. "Hey, big guy, ever tried chewing softer food? Those tusks look like dental nightmares." To his astonishment, Koresh's laugh rang out mid-battle, even as she jammed her blade down. The distraction worked. The beast's attention flickered between Marcus and the hunters, giving her an opening. 2 others sprang forward, striking its knees with precise cuts that made the massive predator stumble. But Marcus's moment of triumph didn't last long. The beast lunged toward him, jaws wide. He scrambled backward, tripping on roots, landing flat on his back. For a second, the glowing maw loomed above him, hot breath reeking of rot. His chest tightened. Death was here. And then Koresh leapt. Down, landing between him and the beast. With a powerful swing, her blade carved a glowing gash across its snout. The monster bellowed, staggered, and finally retreated into the jungle, crashing through trees until the sound faded. Silence followed. Marcus blinked at the canopy, chest heaving, until Koresh crouched beside him. Her amber eyes locked on his, sharp but softened by something he hadn't seen before. Respect. "You do not run," she said, her voice low, steady. Marcus gave a weak grin. "Didn't have time. The roots tripped me before fear could." Koresh's lips curved, that almost smile she had. She reached down, offering her hand. He took it, and she pulled him up with ease, her strength far beyond human. For the first time, Marcus felt like he wasn't just some tag-along explorer. He was part of their fight. The hunters treated him differently after that. Around the fire, they teased him about nearly becoming dinner, but their laughter was no longer sharp. It was warm. Koresh even handed him a carved drinking horn, a gesture he recognized as respect. "You bleed courage," she said that night, gesturing to the scrape on his forehead. Marcus snorted. "Yeah, more like stupidity. Courage just gets the credit." The hunters cackled again, the sound echoing through the trees like strange birds. Marcus couldn't help but laugh with them, even though his ribs ached. Humor had become his weapon, his shield, something that disarmed even predators like them. Koresh studied him through the flames, her eyes catching the glow. "Your mouth fights better than your stick." "Good thing, too," Marcus replied. "Sticks break. Sarcasm doesn't." For the first time, Koresh didn't just laugh. She leaned closer. "Maybe, both together, then nothing stops you." Marcus froze for a heartbeat, caught in her gaze. Her face, with its markings glowing faintly, was fierce and alien yet strangely beautiful. He swallowed, tearing his eyes away, but the warmth lingered. Something was shifting, deeper than survival. The next hunt came sooner than expected. A rival band of hunters arrived, tall and armored in darker tones. They weren't Koresh's allies. Marcus understood that much from the tension that spiked instantly when the two groups faced each other. The rival leader sneered, his eyes raking over Marcus. "You let prey sit among you," he spat in their tongue. Marcus didn't understand the words, but the contempt was clear. He crossed his arms. "I don't know what you said, pal, but I'm assuming it wasn't nice boots." Koresh barked a sharp laugh, deliberately loud. The rival snarled, clearly offended. Marcus realized she was using his humor as a weapon, to undermine the rival, to show that their group was united. But the rivals weren't just here to argue. They wanted territory. And more importantly, they wanted Marcus. To them, he was a weakness, proof that Koresh's hunters had lost their edge. The tension teetered on the edge of violence. Marcus leaned toward Koresh, whispering, "Not to sound like a strategist here, but I think they want me gone." Koresh's eyes didn't leave the rival leader. "Then we show them why you stay." When the rivals challenged them to a hunt-off, a contest of who could bring down the fiercest beast, Marcus thought it was madness. But Koresh agreed without hesitation. And worse, she insisted Marcus join. "You brought courage. Bring it again." Marcus stared at her. "You're joking. Please tell me you're joking." Her smile said otherwise. The hunt began at dawn. The air was damp with mist, the ground slick. The rivals trailed them through the jungle, watching, waiting for them to fail. Marcus tried not to let the pressure crush him, but every step made his chest tighten. The chosen prey this time wasn't just any beast. It was a feathered serpent, wings spanning 30 feet, scales shimmering like molten copper. It coiled. In a clearing, its hiss vibrating through the air like thunder. Marcus whispered, "Well, that looks friendly." Koresh tightened her grip on her blade. "Laugh. Fear listens when you laugh." He forced a grin. "Sure. Nothing says fun like being swallowed whole." The serpent struck, faster than anything Marcus had ever seen. Koresh blocked the first lunge, sparks flying as blade met scale. Her hunters fanned out, attacking from all sides, but the serpent's wings whipped the air into gales, sending them tumbling back. Marcus clung to a root, barely holding on. The rivals laughed cruelly from the trees. See? Weak! Marcus's jaw clenched. Something burned in his chest, not just fear, but defiance. He picked up a jagged stone, yelling at the serpent. Hey! Overgrown feather duster! You call that a hiss? My grandma's kettle sounds scarier! The serpent's head snapped toward him, hissing louder, distracted. Koresh seized the moment, leaping high and slicing across its wing joint. The creature shrieked, collapsing in a heap of thrashing feathers and scales. The rival's laughter cut off instantly. Marcus, panting, raised the stone like a trophy. Ladies and gentlemen, sarcasm saves the day again. Koresh landed beside him, chest heaving, her amber eyes blazing with pride. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. The rivals turned away in silence, defeated not just by blades, but by something they couldn't understand. Humor, bond, trust. And for Marcus, standing there covered in mud, feathers, and sweat, it felt like the jungle itself had finally accepted him. The jungle never allowed peace for long. Just days after the feathered serpent fell, tremors shook the ground beneath their camp. The earth groaned, branches quivered, and birds burst from the canopy in chaotic flocks. Marcus sat bolt upright from his hammock, nearly toppling out. Please tell me that's not another monster auditioning for breakfast shift. Koresh's hunters were already on their feet, weapons ready. Koresh herself crouched low, her hand against the soil. She looked up, her face grim. The jungle shifts. Something older wakes. Marcus rubbed his face. Older? Great, because the giant lizard and bird snake were too mainstream, huh? No one laughed this time. That scared him more than the tremors. By midday, the ground split open to reveal an ancient pit, a yawning chasm overgrown with roots, its depths glowing faintly green. The hunters whispered reverently. Marcus caught only fragments of translation from Koresh. The old hunger. The first beast. Marcus sighed. Why do the scary ones always get cool names? Koresh's eyes met his. This is the trial. If we do not face it, the jungle claims us. The pit trembled again, and something massive stirred below. Marcus swallowed, his sarcasm faltering. Just once. I'd like to pass a trial that involves, I don't know, answering riddles or eating spicy food. Koresh touched his arm, firm but grounding. Then laugh at the hunger, Marcus. Show it your spirit. The beast rose. It wasn't just a predator. It was a living piece of the jungle itself. Roots tangled into its limbs, stone fused into its hide, glowing moss clinging to its scales. Its head was crowned with antlers that dripped with luminous sap, and its roar sent vines snapping from the ground like whips. Marcus gaped. Oh, good. Nature and nightmares had a baby. The hunters attacked in formation, but the beast was unlike any before. Vines lashed out, flinging them back, while its massive limbs crushed trees in single blows. Koresh fought fiercely, her blade sparking against its stony hide, but even she was knocked sprawling. Marcus found himself standing alone as the beast lumbered toward her. Panic flared, then something sharper cut through it. He picked up a spear one of the hunters had dropped. His hands shook, but he forced a grin. All right, Grootzilla, let's dance! He charged, yelling nonsense insults at the top of his lungs. Hey, you overgrown shrub! I've seen houseplants scarier than you. You call those antlers? More like bad antennas. The beast actually hesitated. Its glowing eyes flicked toward him, confused, enraged. That was all Koresh needed. She sprang back to her feet, leaping onto its antlered head, stabbing deep into a seam between stone and root. Marcus hurled the spear not with strength, but with stubborn defiance. By some miracle, it struck the beast's eye, not fatally, but enough to blind, enough to stagger. The hunters surged again, Koresh driving the final strike that sent the creature crashing into the pit it had crawled from. Silence fell. Then the jungle itself seemed to exhale, the tension bleeding from the air. Marcus collapsed onto a root, gasping. I'm never gardening again. That night, the hunters celebrated like never before. Fires roared, drums pounded, laughter spilled through the trees. Marcus sat among them, a horn of jungle brew in his hand, his cheeks flushed with heat and exhaustion. Koresh approached, her amber eyes glowing in the firelight. She knelt before him, a gesture that stunned the entire camp into silence. You stood before the old hunger. You mocked it. You gave us victory. Her voice was steady, but her gaze softened. Marcus, you are no longer guest. You are hunter. He blinked. Wait, seriously? Me? I can barely aim a spear. Koresh leaned closer, her markings shimmering, faintly. Yet your weapon is sharper than blades. You laugh at death, and it listens. The hunters roared approval, pounding their chests. Marcus felt his throat tighten, overwhelmed. For the first time since stepping into this impossible jungle, he wasn't just surviving. He belonged, but belonging came with more than celebration. Later that night, as the camp quieted, Koresh sat beside him beneath the stars. The canopy parted, just enough to reveal alien constellations, patterns Marcus could never name, but already felt oddly familiar. You change us, Koresh said softly. We hunt with teeth and claws. You hunt with spirit. You remind us that fear can break if you laugh at it. Marcus smiled faintly. Guess I'm good for something after all. She studied him, her hand brushing his. Hesitant, almost uncertain. Good for more than you think. The jungle hummed around them, alive with unseen creatures. And for once, Marcus didn't feel small under its weight. He felt grounded, connected. Not just to Koresh, but to this wild, dangerous, impossible place. Days later, their bond was tested again. A flood ripped through the jungle, uprooting trees and scattering prey. Marcus and Koresh found themselves separated from the others, stranded on a patch of high ground surrounded by rushing water. Marcus peered nervously at the current. Okay, laughing at monsters is one thing. Jokes don't work on drowning. Koresh smirked, her confidence unshaken. Then we swim. He stared at her. You're joking. Please tell me you're joking. But she wasn't. They dove together, fighting the current, her strong strokes cutting through the torrent while Marcus struggled beside her. At one point he faltered, dragged under, lungs burning, until Koresh's hand seized his, hauling him back to the surface. They broke onto the far bank, coughing, gasping, drenched. Marcus lay on his back, water streaming from his hair. Koresh leaned over him, her markings glowing faintly in the moonlight. You do not drown, she said. Voice fierce, he wheezed a laugh. Not when I've got the jungle's best lifeguard. When they finally reunited with the hunters, it was clear that Marcus's place was no longer questioned. They didn't just accept him, they trusted him. He had mocked beasts, rivals, and even the old hunger itself. And somehow it had worked. The jungle wasn't just danger anymore, it was family. As the final night of their trial burned bright with flames and song, Marcus realized the truth. He hadn't simply survived. He'd helped reshape a people's way of seeing. Laughter, ridiculous and human, had become part of the hunt. And Koresh, standing at his side with her amber eyes shining, wasn't just his protector anymore. She was his partner, his equal. The jungle still loomed vast and terrifying, but with her laughter answering his, Marcus knew he'd never face it alone.